So I said earlier that you have a super insulated box, you air seal it a lot so that the only air movement you get is the air movement that you intend to get through mechanical ventilation. So let's talk about ventilation. There's two options in America. There are three options in Europe. In America, you either have sort of like the Chris Benedict style in New York, out the sidewall, unitized per apartment, kitchens and baths, go up into a soffit, out the side of the building. Every apartment is compartmentalized. It's an individual system. For Chris's passive houses, she has a supply through the side of the building and an ERV that lives in every apartment. She does 24-unit buildings. She has 24 ERVs. In most multifamily in New York, the traditional approach is to tie all of the apartments together vertically, so you go up and out. In Europe, they have sort of a hybrid version where there's a central trunk line going up and down the building, and then you'll have 5 or 6 ERVs for like a 45-unit building. But we don't do that here. One of the reasons we don't do that here is because it's against code here to do that. In fact, it's against code here to do the sort of approach that we decided to go with, which is we didn't think that we would want to take on the maintenance risk of having 352 separate ERVs, nor did we have the section, the ceiling height, to accommodate it. So what we are doing is 3 central ERVs, 2 on the roof, 1 on the second floor. The 2 on the roof tie the whole residential space of the building together with exhaust risers and supply risers and a heat recovery wheel, an ERV, that takes all of the outgoing exhaust and tempers the incoming supply. There is ducted supply air to every habitable space in the building. So we're not just putting makeup air into each apartment, we're putting makeup air into every living room and every bedroom. We needed to get what's called a CCD1 to allow us to tie kitchen exhaust and bathroom exhaust from different apartments together in a single exhaust shaft going vertical. And we were granted that allowance because I think everybody realizes that this is an important part of making a passive house building work. So we're super happy to get that relief. Typically, we don't do kitchen exhaust through ERVs, but here the kitchen exhaust is not through a mechanical range hood. It's a grill on the wall 10 feet away from the electric range in the kitchen. We have electric ranges because we want better indoor air quality than if we had gas. Now, the interesting thing about ventilation is that it's complicated to get the right rates. Passive house typically wants you to have 3 rates, normal, boost, and vacant. So they want a variable system. New York City gives you, through code, the option to do continuous or intermittent. In the code, there's a table called 403.2, and everybody who designs buildings understands that table to describe the exhaust requirements for multifamily. It's called outdoor air requirements, but it's atypical to provide ducted makeup air in multifamily. It's only typical really at the high end of the market. So what people do is they exhaust to the outdoor air requirement, and the floor below which you're not allowed to exhaust is 45 CFM. So you need to do 45 CFM no matter what, even if though that same table in the code says you should ventilate to 0.35 air changes per hour. It says 0.35 air changes per hour or 45 CFM, whichever is more, right? So in studio apartments, as your habitable space begins to shrink, 45 CFM becomes many multiples greater than 0.35 air changes per hour. In fact, there are some studios where we would have 1 air change per hour if we were doing 45 CFM. Now, our understanding was that the reason why there was a floor of exhaust in the code is that people wanted to ensure the infiltration of fresh air. But in our building, we duct fresh air to every habitable space. So we went back to DOB and said, can you acknowledge the fact that the indoor air quality in this building is going to be better than any other building in the city because we're providing direct makeup air to every habitable space, and allow us some relief from the 45 CFM floor requirement and just allow us to ventilate at 0.35 ACH? And they said, yes. It turns out that even though we got that approval, we don't need it. We're complying with code anyway through a very long and arduously detailed explanation that I'm not going to provide right now. Similarly arduous was getting the program administrators like NYSERDA and Energy Star and LEED and Code all to agree that one rate would satisfy all of their requirements. So there's ASHRAE 62.1, which is New York City. There's ASHRAE 62.2, which is LEED. There's, Passive House, which wants a certain rate. And, there's a place where they can all live together, and it's called the Cornell apartment building at the tech campus.